Warning: some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello everyone, Neon Star here, and I've had a history of seizures. I still don't know what caused them or why, but either way, it's an important part of my history. So sit back, relax, and listen to my tales of woe. I'll start off with the ones I had at school. I was in the 3rd grade when it first happened. A friend randomly gave me a copy of Series of Unfortunate Events 8, and the cover was really freaking me out. Halfway through class, my vision started to fade. It was like a bunch of black dots filling my vision. I felt really lightheaded. I woke up upside down in my chair with everyone freaking out around me. Apparently when I blacked out, my eyes rolled back and I started convulsing. I ended up having the school nurse get a wheelchair for me to take me to the nurse's office since I couldn't walk right away. My dad came to pick me up and took me to my pediatrician, and I threw up in the parking lot. The doctor didn't know what was wrong with me, so he just sent us home. When I went to school the next day, I found out a kid from the class next to ours got in trouble for making fun of me for having a seizure. Like, come on, I wasn't even there to bully. I had another one a couple months later. It was near the end of the day when I started feeling funny. I turned to the kid next to me and whispered that something was wrong. Found out pretty quickly what was wrong because my vision faded out again. I tried to just lay my head down and close my eyes, but it didn't help anything. I woke up on the floor with everyone crowded around me. I was wheeled out of class again. Our car was in the shop at the time, so my dad had to pay for a taxi to avoid the nurse calling an ambulance. We definitely didn't have the money for that. The last seizure I had at school was during an assembly. It was the 5th grade and we were having an anti-drug presentation in the cafeteria. I remember there were dinosaurs telling us the dangers of smoking. This kid from my class wouldn't stop talking during it and making fun of the video. As a certified good kid, this was really getting to me. I started to feel that lightheadedness, and so I got out of my seat and rested my head on it while hyperventilating. The kid looked at me angrily and said, "What's wrong with you?" This kid was my friend, by the way. In fact, I just remembered this was the same friend from earlier. Anyway, my vision blacked out, and I woke up on the cafeteria floor. It took me a second to remember where I was. This time I was able to walk to the nurse's office myself, and luckily it was, right there. So I was getting tested in between and after seizures 1 and 2. Blood tests, sleep tests, soul swabs. One of these tests was an epilepsy test, which came back negative. They also tested to see if I had an overactive thyroid, but apparently it was on the other side of the spectrum. Which is weird because that's also bad, but nothing came of it. This testing lasted a while, but at the end we were given our results. The results were nothing. They couldn't find anything. They just shrugged, patted me on the back, and stopped testing me for things. It was scary, not knowing what was going on. And it's still scary, and I still don't know what happened. Now I have experienced the symptoms mentioned earlier several times without having a seizure. The first I can think of was back in the 4th grade. It was my art special, and the teacher was talking about a kid that accidentally cut open their arm with the metal we were about to work with. I started feeling that signature lightheaded feeling, and eventually I had to lay down. Luckily, the kids in my class had seen me have seizures before, so they knew to take it seriously. I ended up going home and avoiding a seizure. The next one was in my gifted class. I was asked to do a simple word puzzle. But for some reason, I started to feel that telltale feeling. I laid down on a beanbag chair until the feeling went away, which I think is the only time it went away at school. But during that, my gifted teacher was scolding me for being a baby about my puzzle. Like, it wasn't about that? The day after my 3rd seizure, I had to go home early again because I got that feeling. All the kids justified it to the coach since I had one literally the day before. It was only a 3-day week too, so I just stayed home the next day. Let's move up to middle school. 7th grade was pretty eventful with near misses. I only remember a couple instances though. Once in science, my teacher was talking about diseases that come from inbreeding when I felt faint. I shakily raised my hand and asked to be excused. She squeezed my hand and told me I was dehydrated. She gave me a cup of water and sent me off with a friend of the nurse. I was stumbling and dumping my water everywhere. My friend was really worried. Keep that in mind. Another time was in health class and learning about CPR for the 2nd time. I felt woozy and had to go home. Once when I was at the nurse, I told them how I felt like I was going to have a seizure. The nurse kept telling me that seizures weren't on my file. Eventually, she thought to ask me what my name is. I told her and she had this, "Oh" moment. Apparently, she pulled up another girl's file. When I called my dad to come get me, I looked over the nurse's shoulder and saw a picture of the girl she mistook me for. This girl was very noticeably darker than me, and even aside from that, we looked nothing alike. I have no idea how that happened. When a kid in my class died that year, a lot of kids ended up going home. This was the only time I faked it to get out of class. Don't do this, by the way. I only did it because my parents were unavailable otherwise. But seriously, don't fake an illness, even if you suffer from said illness. Now let's go up to high school. In 9th grade, towards the end of the year, I had just got that feeling in the beginning of English. I went home and had to take the whole week off. I even went to the hospital again. They just gave me water and sent me home. I ended up missing a ton of the end of that year. Remember the friend who walked me to the nurse and was really worried? Yeah, this same friend kept yelling at me for missing school because I was overreacting. Even though he saw firsthand how bad it can be, he still said I was overreacting. The next school year I had to go home on the 3rd day because of this. A girl from my class even let me eat some food she had so I'd feel better. Also, the now ex-friend from earlier tried to spin it that I was being dramatic and trying to avoid him. Don't worry though, they're gonna get a whole video about them. Next time I went to the nurse, she told me that since our theory was that it was stress, I just needed to calm down and go back to class. I texted my dad though and got picked up. This is when I got tested again at the school-based health center. I got a blood test and was told I was low in a certain hormone for my thyroid. I don't remember which one now. They ended up saying that it was nothing to be worried about and they didn't know what was wrong. Let's flash back to the 3rd seizure. Afterwards, my friend suggested that maybe my seizures were stress-related. But doctors and nurses never take my anxiety or stress very seriously, so... There were also some instances that could have been seizures, but it isn't for certain. Once when I was little, I was flossing my teeth and I started bleeding. I passed out and woke up with my head on the scale and a pounding headache. And once I had stayed up for 2 days straight and blacked out on the floor. Since no one was around, I can't confirm that they were actually seizures. There was also one before any of the school seizures. We were at the dentist and I had tied my shoelaces together. I tripped and slammed my chest on my brother's big stroller. I ended up blacking out and convulsing, which aligns pretty well with the symptoms. Since we didn't know what happened, my parents chalked it up to just knocking the wind out of myself. It wasn't until later my dad realized it might have been a seizure. And that's all for today. In summary, I've had many seizures and seizure symptoms before, but no one knows why. I've been through hospitals and several professionals, but I'm still clueless. It's an important note in my medical history, so I wanted to do this video somewhat early in my catalog. Thanks for watching and be sure to like and subscribe or whatever. Have a nice rest of your day. Bye!